Hello, students, teachers, parents, history nerds. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Nutshelled History, where we lay out the facts, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We continue with our Modern World History series by looking at Latin American nations' move toward democracy. Don't forget that there's a link for a fill-in-the-blank worksheet in the description. Feel free to use it. I just ask that you like and subscribe. I apologize for any mispronunciations ahead of time. I do my best. Okay, let's go. In the 1950s and 1960s, many governments in Latin America encouraged industries to manufacture goods that had previously been imported. This is called import substitution. More recently, government policies have focused on producing goods for export. Governments have supported the growth of agribusinesses, giant commercial farms owned by multinational corporations that produce export crops. However, the clearing of rainforests to use as farmland has caused much damage. In many countries, a few people control the land and businesses, and wealth is distributed unevenly. Another problem is population growth, which has contributed to poverty. Many religious leaders have worked for justice and an end to poverty in a movement known as liberation theology. One reformer, Archbishop Oscar Romero of El Salvador, preached liberation theology until he was assassinated in 1980. Democracy has been difficult to achieve in Latin America. Between the 1950s and 1970s, military leaders seized power in Argentina, Brazil, and Chile and implemented harsh, autocratic governments. Fidel Castro built a communist state in Cuba and supported leftist guerrillas in Latin America. From the 1960s to the 1990s, civil wars shook parts of Central America. In Guatemala, the military targeted the indigenous population and slaughtered thousands of native people. When socialist rebels called Sandinistas came to power in Nicaragua, the United States supported the Contras, guerrillas who fought the Sandinistas, in fear of Nicaragua becoming another Cuba. By the 1990s, democratic reforms led to free elections in many countries. In Mexico, the Institutional Revolutionary Party, PRI, had dominated the government since the 1930s. In 2000, Vicente Fox became the first president from an opposition party to be elected. He and later presidents have faced challenges of rural poverty, crime, corruption, and increasing drug-related violence. The current president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, promises to expand social programs and to improve the economy, which is growing slowly. The United States has had a powerful influence in Latin America. It has dominated the Organization of American States, OAS. During the Cold War, the United States backed dictators who were anti-communist. The United States has also pressed Latin American governments to help stop the drug trade. Poverty, civil war, weak and corrupt governments, and violence from gangs and drug traffickers have led many Latin Americans to flee to the United States. Many people came legally, but there were a large number of undocumented immigrants, which led the United States to tighten security along its border with Mexico. Hostility toward immigrants from Latin America has increased in the United States. While Argentina is among the most prosperous countries in Latin America, it has experienced political and economic upheavals. Juan Perón, Argentina's president from 1946 to 1955, enjoyed great support from workers but was ousted in a military coup. The military seized control again in 1976 and murdered or kidnapped thousands. Mothers whose sons and daughters were missing protested and became known as the Mothers of the Plaza de Mayo. By 1983, the military was forced to allow elections. Okay, let's recap. Latin America's history since the 1950s is a wild mix of economic experiments, political shakeups, and enough drama to rival a telenovela. Import substitution briefly replaced imports with homegrown goods, but exporting became the new game, with a side of rainforest destruction and extreme wealth inequality. Population growth fueled poverty, while liberation theology inspired leaders like Archbishop Oscar Romero, whose sermons for justice got him assassinated. Meanwhile, democracy struggled as military dictatorships popped up like weeds in Argentina, Brazil, and Chile, and Fidel Castro turned Cuba into a communist HQ. Civil wars rocked Central America, with the U.S. playing puppeteer to fight another Cuba, supporting anyone anti-communist, even shady dictators and guerrillas. By the 1990s, democracy finally started winning elections, but challenges like crime, corruption, and drug violence persisted. The U.S., ever the nosy neighbor, pushed to stop drug trafficking while tightening its border, sparking immigration debates. Argentina, prosperous but chaotic, it saw coups, protests from the fierce mothers of the Plaza de Mayo, and a begrudging return to elections in 1983. Through it all, Latin America has juggled hope, resilience, and a never-ending to-do list. There you have it, folks. That is Latin American nations' move toward democracy. Thanks for stopping by Nutshelled History. Go nuts on those like and subscribe buttons for me. See y'all next time on Nutshelled History.